So, due to Sony's decision to discontinue game discs by 2028, more information has revealed over time. So, today I would like to go through the sales of game discs, the state of the second-hand games market, the average lifespan of the Blu-ray discs, and a major marketing blunder made by Sony. So, this is an article by Tweaktown, and obviously, articles by such outlets should be taken with a grain of salt. So it's saying that PlayStation game disc still sells strongly with nearly 70 million shipped, despite a 4% decline. Digital sales dominated 70%, driven by factors like convenience, discount, and microtransactions. Sony's recent annual earnings report shows that physical media is still going strong at PlayStation, although the numbers are indeed decreasing year over year. But they have used data from PlayStation's earnings call, so we can rely on this article for this information. So the dark blue is for the physical media. So in fiscal year 2025, which has ended on March 2026, 69.9 million. So it almost makes 70 million units for discs, and that's around 22% of the global market. So and Sony or PlayStation, we can say, is a multinational. So that's still not a minor number. That's a considerable amount, a considerable number of discs sold. So PlayStation is willing to let go of this 22% to pursue an all digital PlayStation Store future. That doesn't make sense. And the main reason is that sales of digital sales are increasing while percentage of physical sales as a percentage of total sales of physical game discs are decreasing. Another factor which we need to consider is that the number of great games in comparison to the previous generations that are quite less. But the few number of great games that have been released in this generation, I have discussed in my previous videos, and even the more number of games which will be released in second half of this year. Majority of those games will sell physically than digitally. And even so far, the few number of great games which have been released during this generation, gamers preferred more game discs for those games rather than the digital versions. Only for those games did not have a physical media release, they were being bought by majority of gamers digitally. And obviously, number of great games are less in this generation, so gamers are playing their older games, revisiting their backlogs, or diving into retro gaming. So these are few things that PlayStation doesn't tell its investors in order to push an all digital agenda. This is an article by CNBC. Sony's ironic PlayStation disc decision upends gamer conventions and threatens a 7 billion resale market. And Sony also tries to portray that the transition to all digital PlayStation Store future will be similar to that of the PC. Though in PC there are multiple digital stores from where gamers can buy games. In PlayStation there will be only single PlayStation Store that I've also covered in my previous videos. So a great point raised by the analyst. Sony and PlayStation did not respond to CNBC's queries for comment. So from here, you guys can take a look at the arrogance of PlayStation and Sony. They are not trying to address valid concerns of gamers, and they are also not replying to reputable news outlets like CNBC. And and this article is based on the data by the data Intello estimates. So I will slightly talk about this as well. Was worth 7.2 billion 24 and will reach by 39 billion by 2034. And obviously, this estimate is going to be revised if PlayStation doesn't bend the knee and continues with its decision to end this game disc by 2028. Realistically, at least one third of the games have been sold historically as used, and the games that were sold used also provided currency to the gamer who traded them and who traded them them in as cash to pay for the new games. That also happens. Gamers sell their game discs, they receive money, and they add a few more bucks to it, and then buy other new games. And in my very first video, I gave an example of one of my students that how he. I would like to repeat that example again, especially for those who have not watched that first video of mine, the video with which I started my channel. So what one of my student does is, so actually I'm a full-time teacher for the ONA levels accounting, the UK certifications, and gaming channel I've started as a side hustle because I passionate for gaming and gaming is my hobby. So what one of my student does is he is also a gamer. So he buys new games, he plays them, or he might get bored in between. So he sells discs of those games. He gets money, and then he uses that money to buy gift PlayStation gift cards. And then using the PlayStation gift cards, he buys V Bucks for the Fortnite, or in spends in other microtransactions of Fortnite. So such people they also indirectly contribute to the PlayStation Store's digital ecosystem. So if the disc option will not be available to such people, so frequency of these people to sell games, then buy gift cards, and then buying digital transactions on the PlayStation Store, that is going to decrease because with their if such people will in future will buy games digitally, they will not be able to do a similar thing with those digital games. So data intello. So you can see that all the work have been done by Indians, and this data analytics firm or data firm is located in India. You can see. So obviously we need to take this data with slight grain of salt. Though if the data has been used by reputable outlets like CNBC, and the firm is also certified by certain authorities, so we should take this data with slight grain of salt, but we can consider the data to be accurate. And if your guys they have gone into a lot of detail. By the way, these guys have done great work here. So if you want to go into more details for reasons of thriving second-hand market, so you can read this for yourself. And by the way, Colin Moriarty, who is a PlayStation bootlegger, one of his members raised a question to Colin that in India, majority of the gamers buy games from the second-hand market due to lesser incomes than those in the West. So Colin and his another host, I think so, his name is Chris Reagan. They both mocked such gamers that as they are buying games from the second-hand market, so they are not contributing to PlayStation's income. So yeah, that's correct. And asking such questions from Colin was one of the silliest move by one of the members. because that makes physical gamers appear weak in eyes of PlayStation. And this is more of my opinion that in order for a second-hand video game market to thrive, initially new games or products will have to be what? Then they will be sold by gamers in the second-hand market. So in order for second-hand games market to thrive, new discs will also have to be purchased. So second-hand game market, they indirectly contribute to new game discs being sold. So and what happens in Pakistan? One of the gamers had an idea that obviously in Pakistan it's difficult for people to afford games because our incomes are quite limited. Government is corrupt, inflation is at its worst, and currently the war is also going on, and fuel prices are also quite unstable. So he came up with an idea that he's going to import and buy new game discs, and he prepared packages similar to the subscriptions. So for different packages, gamers can rent a different number of games during a month. So because of that, gamers will not be required to pay enormous security deposits for new games. Just pay the fixed amount of subscription. You can rent new and older games. So and this store in Pakistan doesn't sell games to gamers. And by the way, I've not logged into my Facebook to avoid being doxxed. So so if more number of gamers are renting games from gameplays, so obviously this store is going to import more new games and will contribute to PlayStation's income. So those gamers who are in renting games from this gameplays, they are also indirectly contributing to PlayStation's income. So such things should also be considered, which bootlickers like Corey Moriarty omit to show PlayStation in a favorable light for its moronic decision. And GameRant came up with an article. Study reveals how many years PS5 and PS4 discs can remain usable. And straight away, this article has raised a point. These Blu-ray discs can only last for 10 to 20 years. And though they can be used for more than 20 years, users should not bank for it. Users should not bank on it. By the way, isn't it quite hilarious or surprising that at the same time, PlayStation is trying to discontinue game discs from 2028? Uh, Mainstream media outlet and a pathetic journal came up with such an article. So, to make gamers scared from buying game discs and to push PlayStation gamers specifically, towards an all digital PS Store future. And by the way, this study is done by the Canadian Conservation Institute. I'm going to talk about this in a few seconds. So, he forgot to turn the comments off. And this is a fake study to get people to not to worry about going digital only. By the way, gamers are destroying this journal in comments. They are not buying this shit article. I have many discs from when the original PS4 came out that still work fine. I know it's a different kind of disc, but I also have GameTube discs that work perfectly. I have numerous PS2 games that still function like the day I got them. You do realize it's been only 12 years, right? Many days since the PS4 came out, all the way back in distant 2013. Then he's coping and sitting here, oh, can last longer than 20 years, and that's why I wrote this piece. I wanted to let people know they should take good care of their this if they want to them to last as long as possible. That's why I included this expert tip. The study ain't fake though. So the headline should have been much better. Can remain usable, and what can be done to enhance the lives of these disks. I still have perfectly usable PS1 games and store them horizontally. Some of them are 30 years old. Study is strange. I like. I still have PS4 discs from launch, and all of them just play fine. I have a dozen PS2 discs, and they all work fine. So Drive Club, one of my students lended it to me, and he bought Drive Club when it was released. So it's around 12 to 13 years old disc, and it was working amazing on my PS5. And he even lended me Black Ops 3 one year ago. And even though it had few scratches, but still worked, and I was able to play the campaign and even try multiplayer for Black Ops 3, the offline multiplayer mode. And another friend of mine, he lended me Red Dead Redemption 2. And the problem was that when he bought it at the time of release, after beating the game, both of his discs got one scratch each. So he was not able to resell RDR2. So after that, he didn't take good care of it, and the disc case had a lot of the disc cover was quite dusty, and even both discs were quite dusty. So I cleaned them with microfiber cloth, and both discs now have few scratches, not many, but only few. But still, no problems at all. It's working fine on both discs. Work fine on my PS5. So if good care of discs is taken, they can last for many years. And initially, I thought that this Canadian Conservation Institute might be an agenda pushing government finance institute, but though that's not the case. A special operating agency within the Department of Canadian Heritage advances and promotes the conservation of heritage collections in Canada through its expertise in conservation science, treatment, and preventive conservation. So they work for the conservation of items of significance. So this was the piece of this Canadian Institute which was used by journals to write articles against discs and in favor of an all digital future. Lot of detail, obviously, it's not worth touching each and every detail. So these are just average lifespans. So obviously depends on how a user is using this, how he's keeping the disks, because care of physical media is required, and there are certain people who cannot take proper care of physical media. So those type of gamers, they buy games digitally. So that's the average, and it was a major blunder by Sony. This is a time when you have announced that you will discontinue a game disc from 2020, and at the same time, you are advertising a vinyl turntable and using taglines like this: "Drop the needle, press play, enjoy music the way it was meant to be heard." And by the way, this is an expensive vinyl turntable. It's not cheap. As I'm not an expert in vinyl, so I used AI for it. Although I try my best to avoid the use of AI for making these news videos because AI can make mistakes. So vinyl record player average price range from 50 to 30 hundred. So means vinyls are not cheap. And this vinyl, I can say for sure will be bought just by very enthusiast people, music enthusiast, or very few people. This is not a mass market product due to inflation, uh, worsened state of the economies, and ongoing war, unstable fuel prices. Do you think that majority will buy this record player? Majority listens music by piracy. Spotify is quite cheap, so by Spotify subscription, and majority can listen to music for free on YouTube. And even the vinyls which are used for these vinyl turntables and vinyl players, they are not cheap as well. So Celebrators recently released vinyls for its soundtrack, for its game soundtrack. By the way, the soundtrack of Stellar Blade is fantastic. So obviously enthusiasts are going to buy these vinyls, but majority of those who enjoyed Stellar Blade, they are going to listen it from YouTube, Spotify, etc. So Sony is using resources to manufacture a product which will just be bought by enthusiasts or just my minority. And the number of people who are going to buy this turntable, they will be much less than those who buy a game discs. But still, Sony is willing to manufacture it, but at the same time, it's not willing to manufacture this game discs which are bought by many more gamers. Lastly, I will end this video that Does It Play is planning for an all blackout campaign. In which it's requesting that besides not contributing to PlayStation's digital income, gamers should not even log in on their PS5. And I think so. There is no benefit for it because monthly active users are there's an estimate which I've discussed in one of my videos. So and Sony can manipulate it anyway. So if you have already created an account for PSN, you will be part of the monthly active users, no matter you log in or not. So I think so. The sort of boycott which should be done is the boycott of the DLCs. So I bought Celeblet physically, but I'm not buying its DLCs because DLCs will have I will have to buy from the PS Store. Those who can boycott GTA 6, they should boycott GTA 6. That will also help. And gamers should not buy digital games from the PlayStation Store. So I think so. They are more important steps than just not logging in on PS4 or PS5. I think so. That's not going to work. The boycotts, which will affect the income of PlayStation, especially the digital income, those boycotts will be more important. And another problem is that I don't want to be fully a part of a fully part of a campaign by Does It Play because Does It Play is quite a politically correct organization, and it usually blocks people the political opinions of whom don't align with that of Does It Play. So you guys might know Smash JT. Smash JT didn't even interact with this account, but he has been blocked in advance by Does It Play. Though the stance of Does It Play and Smash JT regarding physical media, the stances are quite similar. But on the basis of politics, Does It Play blocked Smash JT? But they do great work regarding physical media, then how much content is on the disk and so even despite political differences, I appreciate their work. But I've already told you that why I think that not logging into PSN accounts is useless. So and I've not, by the way, I've not yet ordered a GTA 6 yet. Until Rockstar announces a physical edition or Sony makes a decision in favor of the gamers, I'm not going to buy GTA 6.